and welcome to the Playground Experience. I know it's been a while, but we had to kind of resettle with the new energies that were coming in, really kind of find our way, learn our new identity. We were cocooning, being like a butterfly, and we're starting to kind of emerge from that cocooning experience, all three of us. So, welcome. We got our own April Williams here, and we got Kathy D is well. All right. Everybody's got their new energy is shifting wherever they are. There's a brand new newness coming from all of us that even our subscribers and people who are even watching, we're all kind of going through this. We got this great Lionsgate. My understanding, I've heard on a lot of people's YouTube things saying August is like a great, like this newness, this new beginning that's coming for August as well. We got the Lionsgate coming in. I've heard people say this Lionsgate is coming in with a roar. It's not like the ones that we have experienced before. Oh, I'm rhyming. And so that's what is becoming different this time, and for us to really truly get ready for what is coming in for us. That one we were just kind of talking earlier, and with the talking kind of again, it was like almost like a reunion, like, oh my God, like Color Purple, oh my God, I haven't seen you, Mama Tay Tay, all that. And so then it was like we were really having a reunion and kind of catching up on everybody. And it seems like, again, like I said, we're transforming, going through some things, shifting. I heard a lot of healing that's going on, and again, kind of really clearing, getting ready to go to this next level that everybody keeps on saying that we're going into, becoming more lighter, unpacking some things. Some of those things is really kind of looking and dealing with healing as well. And it seems like a lot of things, even if we say karmic lessons or the karmic or the karma, is really dealing with not really kind of getting settled. Just like it's like I can't take it anymore, and that's across the board for all kind of karmic situations. Like they're really coming like to a head. They're showing me like a pimple. It's like pop, and explode. I don't know why they show me a pimple, but that's what it is. It's like the irritation underneath the surface, and it's like, well, I want you just going ahead and explode already. You're supposed to leave it alone. But sometimes you get irritated, say, let me kind of help you. And so this is what's going on with some of the karmic situations. I don't know why they brought me that interesting display of things in my head, but that's what I seen. And a lot of us kind of even doing shifts and movings. A lot of us feeling kind of tired because, again, it's a lot of cellular, a lot of inwardly dealing with things, clearing of things, not only for yourself, but for others as well. And we kind of got like a different kind of mood and energy and vibe in which we're kind of moving into as well. So I'm gonna turn it over to this way to April or Kathy D to kind of take it away and say about what some of the things that you have been experiencing, so everybody can kind of get caught up with us.
Well, I think one thing that we're experiencing definitely with Lionsgate coming up is, they're talking about the clearing of, karmic energy and karmic relationships. And remember, karmic and karmics don't always have to be a person. It can be a person, place, or thing. It's like a noun.
Right.
So there's a lot of that. But then there's an interesting side of this that, we're getting ready to be sped up, and that's coming in with Lionsgate. And if you have not done the healing you need to, the universe is going to help speed you up. And it might not be some of the most comfortable stuff, but things will come to you. We're coming into this age of, especially depending on where you are. And actually, I want to, I'm not for sure on who said it, but the older you are on this twin flame journey, we have more things we're having to work through. We're getting some deeper healings that healing we need to do ourselves, that are involving our ancestors. For many of us that are in our 40s, we came from parents of the Vietnam generation. They came from parents of the World War II generation, who came from parents of the World War I generation. So a lot of war, a lot of turmoil, a lot of unsettling kind of situations that we have had. But then the younger generations that are on this wave as well, they didn't have, they're like some of the first generations not to have war in their, on our, that we're technically in, kind of thing. Even though we're going into conflicts and stuff like that, but that we have truly been in. So they don't have that angst a lot of times. And we're finding that they don't have that. But we're finding that so many of our wounds are coming up with ancestral ties on them. So I kind of, one of mine is that has really been brought to the forefront. And it's one of those that we're to the point of, we've scraped the coffee pot. It's crystal clear. It's shining. But there's still, every time we put the coffee pot on there, we're seeing something. We'll come to find out it's on the burner. You can't fix that. You got to take it to, some kind of repair place. We're now not able to do this really deep stuff. I mean, we could, and it can take longer, and it's kind of one of those, either like a slow rip on a Band-Aid, or if you want to quickly rip it off. Mine is, I have some pretty deep heart wounds. And these heart wounds not only are my own heart wounds, but they're ancestral heart wounds. So it's like I almost see like a heart with almost like a hole in it, but it doesn't go all the way through. It's just kind of like somebody scooped out a chunk of it, and then like all these threads coming off of it, like it's pinned it down. And so every bit of my ancestors have had something to do with this. But not only is it my heart wound, it's also the DM's heart wound. And so we're coming into that part of having to heal some of these wounds on our own, having to, share more things. It's not one of those, it's my problem, you don't have to deal with it kind of thing. Having to step in and be there for the other one, and letting the other one know it's okay. I'm not here to take over. I'm just here. So that's a lot of what's going on right now with Lionsgate and what I felt with the energies.
Yeah.
Okay, hey. So
hey, beautiful.
Leo in the house.
Yeah.
Lionsgate is a very, very intense time, because it is the heart opening, it is the heart clearing, and as our planet is ascending, and everything has, the veil is completely thin, right? And there's still people in delusion about it, right? So there's no longer, I keep saying, you can no longer lie to yourself, but some people really do try, and they have been trying, and it has been dragging, but Saturn won't allow that. Saturn will not allow that. Sweet, our lovely Mimi's here. Love you, Mimi. And she was saying, she was confirming what we were talking about. It says, me and my mom have gotten into it twice in the last couple of months, once in July and once this time, and finding out that someone else was the buffer for their relationship. And so you're finding out now, all the addictions have popped up. They're not necessarily sticking. They're no longer, it's like, I don't know how many times in my life there have been a moment where I can't numb out, right? And I think it has to do with Leo. Not that I'm seeking out numbing out, but it's just something that happens. And right now, I don't think people are able to numb out. They're seeking the ability to numb out, but that satisfaction that you get is no longer there, right? So now we're actually clearing things out. And so there's a few people that are hanging on tooth and nail to these toxic ways of being, but I think the collective is, we're going to do stuff that's better for us. We're going to see things that we may not like, but it's okay. We're also learning things about external entities that were very, very corrupt. What's happening within our food systems, things we've been feeding ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, things that we were fed that were toxic for so long. And we were wondering why we were poisoned. Similar to mindsets are changing, right? People are now able to say, oh, this didn't work, or you know what, I can actually feel for myself. Well, um, I actually can feel for myself that I wasn't cared for as a child, or I wasn't cared for as in the way that I would have liked to have been. And so now it's really beautiful that we now have the space to really look at it and feel it. And as a Leo, I've been feeling all the feels, but I also now have learned boundaries. Like it's the first time in my life because I was one of those people that kind of let people in a little more because of empathy. But now I've got apathy, which is really interesting to see that turn on and realize that that's part of maybe a gift that I can actually use instead of having to overfeel and be overly sensitive to see if I can actually make that okay. If I can actually make myself like, I don't have to feel for you in order to help you, but I also cannot feel for you and help myself. And so that's a really nice tie in. Um, so there is a sense of cycles leveling up. Like I feel a lot of newness, particularly myself. Like I feel like it's a whole brand new thing, which means when you have the whole brand new thing, you start to look at the stuff that never worked in the first place. Or is it something that junky and old and a teddy bear that maybe is really gross and grungy, and no matter how much you wash it, it still won't get clean? Okay, well,
Mm.
I guess I can finally move on from that because I didn't really need it. It was just a keepsake, and it's pretty much falling apart. It's telling me, "Let me die, let me decay," so I can actually like throw it away. And so I actually have been cleaning out drawers, cleaning out closets, preparing for that aren't, just flowing in the shift. And if you flow with it, it happens a lot
Mommy,
easier.
Mom, hello? Yeah, and so yeah, I think it's a lot of that family dynamic. I kind of tonight had that too with relative, and trying to help to understand. I'm finding, and it might be so with you saying Mimi too as well. A lot of them are not wanting to take responsibility for the change. It's a lot of throwing it back and saying no. And I'm standing my ground and say no, no, you're not gonna kind of make me be a scapegoat for you not owning your own stuff. I was about to curse and say something else. You got to kind of sit in that. It's not the way I said it. It's not the way I worded it. You just don't want to take ownership about your stuff. And the more and more I took it like a beach ball and said, no, this is yours. Ooh, I almost took the phone off the hook. No, this is yours. No, this is yours. This is not mine. You know, the more energetically, and I kind of talked to I think I had a conversation with my therapist, and she kind of helped me to understand that too as well. That some of that stuff again, you're gonna get that pushback until they kind of understand that again, this is the boundaries, and this is what I said, or again, helping her to understand a different kind of way of looking at things is relative. Uh, Me keep on doing that, and then eventually, down in the conversation, it was exhausting. It turned and it was like, okay, I get what you're saying now. Yeah, okay, I see what I brought to the table. It was like literally me taking my energy and saying, no, I'm not going to be, because I guess in some ways with us being so light workers or being even us in this community, to be honest with you, we're getting even trained and I will say brainwashed. I'll be nice. It's always controversial that brainwash that it's like, okay, I'm an empath. I take it all in. I martyr myself in. I'm clearing for everybody. Some of that junk that people are kind of like throwing at you, especially when it's that familiar stuff, it's like, again, for where I am, and I'm not saying this is everybody's story, but some of that stuff, again, is like us in this heart and what the Leo season or energy is bringing to us. Now, it's also about that bringing in that team self. It's no more bringing and wearing t-shirts that say I'm from team this person or team that, and then bump about me being for team me. It's more of it coming back and throwing to us again. No, I'm team me. Make sure that my cup is filled. before I go ahead and fill up anybody else's cup. And so that is again now where it's bringing us to, and especially like I said, I had the conversation with the relative. It's like, no, I'm here again, and I have to remind myself too, as a light worker, or the purpose of me being born into this family, since we're saying family, is to shine the light and show you a different way. It's not for you to keep on telling me, no, this is the way I've known it from whether World War One, Korean War, whatever daggone war you experience, it's again to show you a different kind of dimensions. And so again, with this relative, I found the more I kind of pushed it back and said, no, I feel like myself, like turn the light up brighter so she can get it. Cause it's like, no, you're not gonna dim it for me to be able to come to your level about that. What am I here for? And the brighter I shine it on it, the more it's like, oh, okay, I kind of see now what you're talking about. Yeah, it is me. Okay, I can see. It's like, and I think in some ways, some instances, this is what, again, for our family, while we're here to kind of clear those bloodlines, it is for them to say, okay, you know what? I can't play myself small no more. And that came out in a lot of readings that I have been doing here lately, that we've been playing ourselves small, not stepping into our role, not stepping into our mission, not really digging in there and becoming who we're really here. Like, okay, I don't give a darn if my light bright it blinds you. This is what I'm here for. And so I think now with this Lion Gate, it is, and I know they're saying that we're getting pushed. I heard from another tarot reader said we're getting pushed into our destiny. So some of that stuff is again of us really being able to step into who we are, and even some of that stuff is to help also our family members to have that understanding. So that's it. I'll pass it on to whomever want to jump in with that.
I'm gonna go in with it because I want to tie the two things together. You know, um, as much as we know as much as we are now aware of what is ours, we all and what is someone else's, we're now also being able to reflect what have I picked up because of that, right?
That's a good
And
way.
so there's a lot within us, especially if you're looking at ancestry, that we're clearing naturally by the conversations that we have, by the willingness to say, I want something different, or I feel that this is kind of old. And and it's really interesting because having to shake off a lot of the heaviness that we perceived as heaviness, but actually it was quite light. It wasn't a hefty bag at all. It was literally just a Ziploc bag, but it was a more of a, oh, oh, is that all it is? Okay, now that I can see it and recognize it, it's not a weight that I'm carrying around. It's something that I'm going to go recycle now, right? Because parts of it were great. We got their strengths as much as we got some of the weaknesses. And the weaknesses can be blinding. So when you see a pattern happening within your family, especially let's say the same sex as you are. So if you have women that were passive aggressive, or let's say they denied you, or even if you had kind of something the opposite happen occur, if the bloodline changed, let's say you had a stepmother, stepfather, or something like that came in, and they started putting their issues on you, then you're really, I was thankfully able to be buffered by the nature of just God and the universe in general. I was buffered from that, where I'm not dealing with the heaviness that that person carried in their line. Now, the heaviness has to do with abandonment. The heaviness has to do with not necessarily neglect, but with having to carry too much. And most of our ancestors had to carry too much on their shoulders, too much responsibility. They weren't allowed to be children. They weren't even allowed to be teenagers. Some of them weren't even allowed to be safe because of their ethnicity or their race and stuff like that. And so they had a more trigger fight or flight experience throughout that process. Now, us, it's a little bit cushier, so we can actually slow down and look at it. And we're able to even have the conversation and say I'm a light worker. But because personally, I had such heavy science background that I couldn't explain why I was having all this psychic intuition, or I couldn't explain why I could feel other people's feelings. I just kind of let it be and suppressed it and used it for survival, right? Because it was I had a very traumatic upbringing. to be honest. But I survived it, and then I looked at it. Now I'm like, okay, how did I survive it? Oh, this, and this. Oh, those aren't exactly great. Now let's take a look at my mother, my grandmother, and see what it is that I'm carrying from them. That oh, one is maybe too apologetic for even being around, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Do I carry that? Turns out I do. Oh, am I denying certain things about um, my past? Are there certain responsibilities that I don't want to take on? What is it that I'm not following through with? And I realized, okay, since these are the generalized, overgeneralized weaknesses, I wouldn't call them weaknesses, but survival mechanisms of my ancestors, how do I embody that? And do I want to keep that or do I want to shift it? And it's only by acknowledging it can it shift. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes along with forgiveness and deep level deep level releasing and then not picking it up again. Like a lot of times people say, just cut cords, just cut them. Well, if you just cut them, they have a magnetic attraction to something that's similar. But if you release them and then you take the time to let them stay gone, right? And then you say, well, what do I want in that place? And you start to call in what you desire and own, and you're practicing your boundaries. We've worked together with you for 2.5 years. If you don't know anything, boundaries and work focused on yourself and your mission, right? And as you actually set them in and anchor them in, you see extreme life shifts. And the whole thing is, we've been doing this work for so long that it's now happening externally. People are now having to look home, not necessarily homelessness, but homelessness in the face. And then instead of judging people for being houseless or doing or things like that, they're like, okay, I understand. How can we fix that? Right? So where is it within you that feels unsettled or feels like earth is not your home? A lot of people who are in light worker range have come to me, the light worker range. They come to me and they say, um, I am suffering extreme physical pain, like crazy, distracting physical pain. So our planet is ascending, and a lot of light energy is being come into the planet. And this one woman, I think her name is Earth 1111. I really liked how she put it. But light workers are here to anchor into Earth these light codes and these frequencies wherever they're at, right? So when a person is withholding their greatness and their mission and their passion and their like actual ability to anchor in with joy, pain comes out. And then it starts to come in forms of like depression. It starts to come in forms of self-denial. It starts to come in forms of it's everybody else, it's not me, I'm alone, I'm too weird, I'm this, I'm that. And it's like the deal is everybody's weird, honey. It's just, are you gonna let your freak flag fly and love it? You know, not everybody, nobody's perfect. Yeah, you may be able to put on makeup and be under 110 pounds, but that's not really that's not really for everyone. That's why everyone comes in different shapes and sizes. And so I loved what you were saying earlier about just shining your light, because that's all we're supposed to really be doing is being who we are and enjoying the planet. But in order to enjoy things, sometimes you have to let some stuff go. Like if you want to enjoy love and really enjoy it, then you got to get into a place of unconditional. But there's a lot of conditions that we've set up to protect ourselves because from being a child, and not only are we carrying the weight of our ancestors that we don't realize, we're now carrying the weight of all the things that kind of like little traumas um, that have built us into the character that we think we are. But in reality, a majority of people haven't actually develop their character into who they truly are. And that's what's happening right now with awakening, with the shifting, because we're no longer able to just say, this is who I am. It's like, oh, looks like your wig fell off. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. This is who I am. And then, like, you can't buy that foundation that actually matches your skin color anymore. Like, it's so funny for me to watch these Instagram things where it's like, just be who you are authentically. And I'm like, is she wearing like 5 layers of different types of makeup and contouring? Because she talking about being who she is right now? Is she saying that to me? Like, I just be who I am, and it's okay to be in your artistry and to do your makeup and do your hair and do your nails and just love to pamper yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're saying that's who you authentically really are, you got to be realistic about, "Hmm, I like to put on makeup. This is part of like the image I love to put out. But who I am is, I forgot what comedian was saying this. He was like, a lot of y'all ain't gonna get into heaven because God ain't gonna recognize you. You know, you got surgeries, you had all this and that, you can't even be who you are. This is not who I designed. I don't recognize this. And, getting back to that original design and getting back to appreciating your flaws as much as you can, right? And realistically, if you don't like something about yourself or your personality or stuff that you're carrying, like let's say your mother was an alcoholic and you have a tendency to either one be an alcoholic yourself, or two, you completely hate people who drink alcohol and you avoid those places and you look down on them. Well, just be realistic, just be real honest about it. I have this aversion, but that's okay that I have this aversion, and be real with it. Let's say you have a thing where you kind of racially discriminate people, like you call Asian drivers bad or something. Let's be real about the fact that you're saying that. It's not true. I'm sure, I don't know if there's any Asian race car drivers or anything like that, but I'm sure there's great driving Asian people out there, right? So it's okay to recognize you have a flaw. The question is, how do you want to correct that? And the flaw isn't, oh my nose isn't the right angle, so I'm gonna have it surgically put up and down. The flaw is I don't know how to appreciate my own beauty. I don't know how to appreciate the beauty in others. Maybe I'm overly judgmental. I'm afraid to open my heart to fully and unconditionally love someone, or be in a place or be loved, because I could lose that, because my heart was broken, because somebody passed away, maybe because I was always denied that, maybe I was never shown how to do that, and now we're getting into a place where we're saying, who are the teachers and when will they come, and who are the teachers and then they will come, right? Who shows you how to love? Oh, that little girl playing with her puppy, just laughing. That'll show you how to love. It's mostly little kids that'll show you how to be authentic because they're just who they are. And when they see someone with like a disability or something like that, they get so curious, but it's not in a negative, that person, something's wrong with them. It's just, wow, kid, what can you do? That's unique. That's different. What can you do? Oh, those are glasses. Can I try them on? Oh, the world looks so different, you know? Um, and I think that another aspect of Leo, because a lot of people focus on their dramatic and their, they this and that, right? They're full of themselves. Well, actually, people like to use Leos because they do bring attention, right? You can't help but acknowledge the sun, but they're also very into family, and they're all about children. So it's coming in with that innocence and that wonder and that, like, being there and being present with that childlike wonder. So if you can rephrase it or reframe it, like your trauma or the stress that you're undergoing, go back and look at that trauma and say, well, or, the fact that you're carrying whatever coping mechanism with you. You say, well, why did you get that coping mechanism? Well, I disassociate because I had this type of trauma. Maybe I was sexually abused. Maybe some mom and dad used to fight, so I just used to watch TV and like check out. Okay, well, wow, you know how to create a whole new world. Well, if you know how to create a whole new world, let's create a world where you can see that men and women can actually communicate. You can see that good relationships can actually happen and people can have a wonderful time together. And then you start to bridge this gap in the back of your heart, because it feels like it's a lot of people in the back of their heart where they shield it, right? And it's not about unshielding your heart, it's more about letting love come in. letting light shine in, letting forgiveness come in, and reframing a lot of the pain that makes you think it has to be this way. Like, and the hardest relationships to mend are the ones that are the closest to you. The hardest things to reframe are the ones that were the most effective, like the mother, father, or grandmother, grandfather, especially if you've been adopted or you had to do a lot of that stuff. That can be really complicated. But the truth is, we're all here and we're all meant to be here. We all deserve to be here. And the earth is thankful we're here. Now it's cluing back into ourselves and our relationship with her. Because if she wanted, Mama could knock us out, but she's not. She's letting us, you know, tear up our room, ruin our posters, do all our things, and then we realize, oh, my stuff is messed up, and that's kind of what's happening outside. Like, oh, I had candy, but it turns out that candy causes ADHD in future generations and cancer, and now we're like, how do we fix that? Right? That's kind of like the big thing. It's like nutrition, family, children. Anyway, what do y'all think? This Leo's been talking for quite some time.
One thing too, one of the things you mentioned, the, unconditional love. And a lot of us, especially those of us on, one of the closer waves, we're having to figure that out. But April made a great point about that. And it's learning to love ourselves unconditionally. We've always said, if you don't love yourself, how can anybody else love you? Okay. But we're now getting into that point where we really have to put the rubber on the road. I have to love myself unconditionally. And I have to know that I deserve what I deserve. And that I wasn't put on this earth to suffer. I was put on this earth to help people. And you know what? This whole martyrism that the women in my family have been doing for years is done. But I'll tell you, the greatest and most enlightening and probably freeing thing I have done was a couple weeks ago when I had a chance to see the DM. And I had been thinking about it. I'd been plotting it. I'd been worried about it. I don't know how many times I didn't almost turn around. I would go, oh no, oh no, oh no. And when you have that moment and you talk to yourself like you talk to a friend, and I was like, what are you so worried about? Well, what if he doesn't want to see me? Then he doesn't want to see you. What's he going to do? Run and jump on the motorcycle and take off and never be seen again? No. I mean, be realistic. And then I made myself actually stop and think, how many other times has he literally run from you and physically said, I do not want to see you. Not, I can't see you. Not, I'd love to see you, but right now is not good. But physically, I don't want to see you. Never. How many other men in my life outside the DM have run like that? As I thought about it, none. You know where that came from? It came from my mother telling me that I should keep the DM as a friend because it's better off to have him as a friend than a boyfriend that will leave me. Gee, mind blown. Where'd the abandonment come from? My mother planted it.
That's deep. That's deep.
My mother planted it. I didn't have any physical justification for it.
Now, I want to put a caveat in here, okay? Just for the people watching. She's not blaming her mother. She's just making an observation about her mother.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. My mother, my mother was born in
my mama did too.
My mother was born in 1943. Now, to go back a little further with that, my grandparents were 40 when my mother was born. Right? They had 2 kids. They were, my mom's oldest sister was 10 years older than she was. So it was like they thought my mom was in appendicitis. Come to find out she was a baby. So there was a lot of, my grandparents had their lives. So it was like, okay, go sit in the corner. My mom was painfully shy. Sit in the corner, you'll be fine. She tells a story about sitting at a bridge game. My grandmother played bridge in the little folding chair. She was tiny. I mean, I tower over her and I'm 5'1" and 3/4. And the chair closed up on her. And she sat there and didn't make a sound until someone noticed she had been closed up in that chair. So it was, don't draw attention to yourself. God forbid, whatever you do, just sit there. Sooner or later, somebody will come save you. And that's where that came from. And so at that point, I made up my mind that no more regrets. No more regrets when it came to the DM. Now, I had planned on seeing him. He didn't know he was going to see me. I could have done my hair, my makeup, had a cute outfit on. Yeah, that all probably would have worked well. But you know what? I glanced at myself in the mirror when I was leaving the hotel. And I was like, yep. My hair was fuzzy and frizzy. I didn't have my same hair products that I use here. I had no makeup on. Not even any mascara, no lip gloss, nothing. I had on a t-shirt from the school I used to teach at, a pair of jean shorts, and sneakers. So I don't know exactly if I was going to mow the lawn or if I was going to see the DM. Here's the thing. It didn't matter because I love me unconditionally. And that's where we have to take this. It's not enough just to love ourselves. You know, to say, oh, I love me, but my nose is a little crooked, or I'd like to be a little taller. I wish I didn't have those crow's feet. No, I love me. I love my crooked nose. I love my crow's feet. I love my gray hair. I might cover it, but I love it. It's still there. But we've got to get to that where we're not. And was I nervous to see the DM? Absolutely. I'd been lying if I'd said no. But, you know, the minute I got there in front of him, it was totally different. And it was a calm. And I was telling April and Divine before we got on air, I was expecting lightning bolts and, you know, electric shock and all of this, you know, and we touched, but it wasn't that. It was, and the best way to explain it was when we hugged, I fit in his arms. I fit right there. And it wasn't like the first time. It wasn't that I'm home kind of feeling, because I already knew where home was. It was just that. And that was the only way to explain it. But if I had been all caught up about my makeup, my hair, what I was wearing, what I was doing, I would have been probably pulled over on the side of the road throwing up and never made it there because I would have had myself in such a tizzy. We've got to decide. No more regrets. No more regrets. How many times has fear held you back from what you wanted? Now, granted, there are times fear holds us back to keep us safe. You know, you're not going to, you know, jump out of a 6-story window. You know, those are things like that. But the fears we make in our heads. So when you have those fears, sit back and think about, did they do this to me? Has anybody else done this to me? Where did I get that idea? And when you find out where you got that idea, then if you are lucky enough to still have them in your life and alive and living, have a conversation, not blaming, because those are coping mechanisms. My mom was not in any way, shape, or form trying to warp me. She was trying to protect me. She didn't want me to be hurt. And because of her protecting me and me not listening to myself, I did wind up getting hurt. So we have to find out where these are coming from. And if you're able to have a conversation with them, have a conversation with them. If you are not, for whatever reason, not able to have a conversation with them, sit down and do the, train of thought journaling. Do that, just where you just kind of ramble, where you're almost in a trance and you just write. And if you have to, write a question at the top of the page and then fill it out. I was lucky enough that my mom came to me. And I was in the shower and I asked, why? And she told me, because I knew. And I didn't want you to get tangled up with him too soon. So, it's one of those things that, hindsight, hearing from the other side, but then also knowing that we know, and those of us that are parents, there are things we just know that we know about our kids. We can look at them, and I hope that as much as we have big hopes and dreams and would love to see them do all these amazing things, that we allow them to be their own amazingness, if that's even a word. But because when you start guiding them, oh, you're going to be, because you're like your aunt, you're going to be this, or because you're like your father, you're going to be this. Well, everybody in our family has always done this, i.e., that's the reason I'm a teacher. You know what? And the DM has put this the best, and to my girls, as long as you are the very best at whatever you do, that's all we can ask. So if you, as we tell girls, if you want to ride the back of the trash truck, which there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs, sanitation, and we need these kind of things. I'm not saying anything like that. But when you say it to two little girls, it's kind of like, eh. But to make the point, as long as you are the very best sanitation worker that you could possibly be, that's all that matters. And you're happy. Those are the two requirements. As long as you're the very best at whatever you choose to do, that you can be, and that you're happy. And that you know where happiness comes from. That it doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside and radiates out. And then that is what instills that unconditional self-love, is being allowed and allowing them to be themselves.
Yes.
All right, next.
Yes. I want to fire it up because I got a bunch of messages that just said fuck them all week. My auntie was straight headed. She was like, fuck them, and tell them to their face, fuck you. And I'll tell you why, fuck you. But I'm really soft about it. I'm gonna cushion the fuck yous with the, I love you, but fuck you. And what happened was all this XYZ, but seriously, fuck you though. And it'll be okay because I got that self love and that self preservation. So it's just gonna be like that. Okay, baby. No, not right now. Nope. Okay, so trying to convince my son to not jump on my bed, and he has rice in his hair for a random reason. Snacks for later, I guess. Um, so I think you guys are both on phones, so I don't know if you could see the comments. That we got one. Thank you, Kathy D, for that message. because she was having a conversation. I'll put it up. Can you read it if I put it up? It's kind of small. I had a conversation with my son about sitting at the computer. I'll read it to you. Thank you for this message, Kathy B. I had a conversation with my son about sitting at the computer all the time and playing games, and he told me that I make him feel like he isn't good at anything, and suggested he tries other things um, that he feels like he isn't good or would suck at. But you know what's the real thing? Like, you can be a gamer. You can straight up solidly be a gamer. Like, you can create games and do all that kind of stuff. So he could be preparing himself for something. But encouraging him to try more things is always good because you want to try. You want to experience as much of life as you can because you're here, right? So why not enjoy it? But he can actually make a spank load of money creating all kinds of stuff because a lot of the stuff is going virtual. Just saying. Just putting it out there. It's actually a thing, and I know someone who used to get paid for that kind of stuff. I know a few
But
people.
real quick on that, Mimi, make sure that you let him know
No.
that one of the greatest teachers of all time is failure. And you have to, if you were able to succeed right away at everything, we wouldn't do it. So remind him that right now, if he's feeling inadequate at these things, give it a try and try it again if it's something that interests him, and keep trying, because actually failure is your best teacher.
One thing that she said here that I thought was really good was that she's learning to have more compassion with people that she perceive of as crazy right now because there was once a time where she felt like she was unstable and she went through some things. And this is really, really honest because a lot of people, mental illness and mental health is something that hasn't been really talked about. And, they're over medicating these people. So we're not actually able to heal the traumas that is split. So, what I understand, what was said to me as a download for a lot of people that are crazy, they're hyper psychic or hyper energetically attuned, but they also went through trauma or had to carry a lot of trauma. And within that, minority groups, particularly Black minority groups, there's a lot of we have to talk down about ourselves or feel or appear crazy so people don't mess with our people kind of stuff. There was a study. This is going off the topic a little bit, but then I'll come back. There's this study where this woman was talking about it's post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? So there's a lot of stuff that happens within the epigenetics of everyone, right? Because we all have had that, especially if you had several hundreds of years of being oppressed, being stolen, being raped, all of our ancestries carry this. So we have a lot of compound trauma, compound generational trauma that we're clearing. And one of the ways that they didn't get their children stolen and sold to other slave owners is to talk down about them. Say they're dumb or, yeah, they're stupid, they'll never get it together, da 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 da. They talked about that kind of stuff so that the slave masters wouldn't steal their children. But because it was done before, we never cleared it after slavery ended. A lot of people didn't clear that behavior system. So if you're seeing a lot of people talk down to their children and stuff like that, I just talk better about my child loudly, you know? So they can see that clearly this child has self-esteem. He knows his voice is worthy and he is someone to be heard, right? Because there's also a lot of healing from the children are supposed to be seen and not heard and all this other stuff. And that's I almost started crying when he told me about her being folded up in that little chair, that little baby girl, you know, because kids are honestly more awesome than a majority of the adults. We're just here protecting them, and we have wisdom to share with them. Unfortunately, they've been shared a lot of junk too, and no one understood the power of their words. No one understood the power of meditation and slowing down and changing the generations. But we are now. Like in my book, I have a little chapter about epigenetics and how it works and what happened and how we're carrying generations of trauma and how to actually clear it. but it takes active work to clear it. Yeah, it was passive to receive trauma. I get that. But it's a little bit of action to actually heal it. And it's enjoyable action. It's finding joy and letting joy be okay. Because there's a lot of times where people just can't let things just be cool, right? Like when she was saying, it's got, like, I thought it was going to be dramatic when I saw my dude and we're going to get together and it's going to be like lightning. And then all of my clothes are going to just burn off in the wind. This is me imagining, as like a sheer phoenix moment. And like you come together and your clothes are burning off with strong wind between you. And then you come together like, no, but you feel comfortable. It's okay to feel at peace. And when you realize that not everything has to be, because that's a traumatic experience technically. While your clothes were caught on fire and they ripped off of your body, and then you felt like electricity. That's technically trauma. That's technically traumatic, right? So I have to look at what and redefine what love is, because it's not about, or the romantic love, because it's not about trauma inducing or like your nervous system upset. It's actually about comfort and feeling within the body and being present, not wanting to leave your body when you're with them. You want to stay there and be present in that moment with them. And I'm so glad that you had that experience. And I know it's going to rub off on all of us. So I love that. Oh, I'm giving myself a hug. I'm like, I love so much. Because that ultimately is our greatest weapon, is that ability to love, right? But like when your child's having a tantrum and you're a good parent and you're like, obviously not stressed to the bone, right? Because sometimes when you're just that stressed, you can't handle, you know. But you love them. You pick them up and you say, hey, you're having some strong emotions right now. What is happening? What do you feel attached to? Or, what is it that is off for you? Because we're gonna correct that, or at least course correct it, so you can learn how to manage your emotions and also how to be more unconditional in your presence, right? Because your condition was, I needed that monster truck and it needed to be just like this. But you know what? Even with three wheels, he still loves that monster truck. And you're just learning to let go of that wheel, and that's okay. So, what's your wheel that you're holding on to? Ah,
That sounds good, and I think that's a good place for us to wrap up right there. So, we doing anything, any projects, anything that you all have, or anything, or we the mission itself and practicing self love at this time? Is that what everybody's kind of working on?
yes.
Yeah. My
Okay.
self-love right now is I am turning over my website, my logo, my branding, everything to a company. I can't do it.
Yeah! Get
I
All
it,
can't
right.
do it
girl!
myself.
Get it,
I'm
girl!
turning it
Sister
over to
Wizy
the
for that.
professionals.
Okay.
Um, and I'm
Okay.
taking care of and working with a professional to heal my heart wound
Okay.
and some of my money blocks.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, really look into some of these blocks you're feeling, because you're going to see so many of them were ancestral.
Yeah.
And what I found was, I was like, I don't know why I would have money blocks. My grandfather was a very extremely successful businessman in Chicago. There shouldn't be any reason I would have any kind of money blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and sat down and kind of meditated on it. And my mother came from a very wealthy family, and my father grew up on a farm. My
Oh,
father was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. That did not equate to what my mother was used to as her lifestyle.
yeah, sure.
So everything was always, we don't have enough money. It was
Mm-hmm.
always that lack mentality. And I mean, going from living in a a millionaire home to a teacher home, it's a very different lifestyle.
True.
And, but when I look back at it, it really wasn't lack mentality. I had clothes, I had food, we had a home, I had bikes and toys, and I didn't know. And it goes back to that, kids don't know they're poor until you tell them they are. And so that's where that fear of it came from, because it was like, there's never enough. And if I worked this hard for this, oh, how I'm gonna have to work 10 times as hard for more. And so really having the wrong mindset about money, find out where it's coming from
Okay.
and not blaming them, but just where are those words coming from. And actually, I believe both of you, I know Divine Sunshine definitely did the hypnotherapy where we did the went in and listened to the words people said as a small child.
Right.
And I know you got a lot of insight from that on where that was coming from and why so many things you were thinking and traumas and triggers were coming up. So it's quite powerful to check into that. But so I'm doing the heart healing, and I am turning over my website and my business plan and my branding and everything to a professional company that can get it out there and really get it seen so I can have clients.
Gotcha. Sounds like a plan, literally.
Yep.
April, what's happening with you?
I am just loving on me in all the ways possible, setting in routine, and the main thing for me is consistency, right? Just showing up every day, doing the same thing, and I'm realizing that a lot of my, I guess, sensationalism about life, it was because I had a very traumatic, constantly, who knows what's about to happen, you know, life. And that's like, oh, okay. So you're constantly seeking change and variety because uh, you're resistant to consistency because what does that mean, right? So I've been doing a lot of that exploration and like applying and practicing self-discipline in a very, very healthy way. And so I'm learning to enjoy just being, just relaxing, even though I can get real hype. And that's cool too. Like there's a reason for that. And there's a season, there's a time and a season for everything.
Right.
And so I'm learning to do that for myself and modeling that for my son and helping him show up and be consistent in his pursuits. Even though he's young, we learn everything when we're young, consciously or subconsciously. So, yeah, I've actually got a few different mentors. I'm working with two professionally. And my profession isn't going to change, it's just actually expanding. And it's going back into the stuff I used to love as a kid. And so I'm pretty excited. That's my confirmation. It's like, bitch, you better get on it.
Right. Yes, nothing.
Ready for the party.
Right.
Freaky Friday in full effect.
Yeah, so I would say that, I'm learning that we got two missions: the mission of self, getting it together, really becoming one, and then the mission of the outward stuff as well. But my mission of self, just really transforming, seeing what Bertina actually likes, what she doesn't like, not according to anybody else. Just a lot of shifting going on. And then also, yeah, it's shifting. That's right. Tell them they mommy shifting. And so then also, and then if you are interested in wanting to know about the patterns, or again, seeing about what places that need to heal that you don't understand the patterns about your ancestors too, you can come get a past life regression session with me as well. Who keeps turning like that's me? Past life regression session as well. And so you can be able to kind of look at it. So go to ShantiWellnessCenter.com. August is closing out. People are now, I guess, it's August is almost on. I guess I'll give me a session now. So now I'm like booked up until till the 21st. I think somebody got me on August 21st because I told you after the 12th is weekends only. And so so far they're filling up. Slots are filling up. So if you're interested in getting it for 2 hours for $125, that's a steal. It's usually $250. So make sure you jump on and you get you one. So that'll kind of help you to guide you in the right direction, because we can set as you go with the hypnotherapy and the session specifically. Like, I want to know what are the patterns of my ancestors that are affecting me, and what do I need to clear, and then we'll go through there and find what they actually are. So make sure you take advantage of that too. So go to ShantiWellnessCenter.com. All right
I
then,
just want to
people.
vouch for that. I just want to vouch for that. She's
Okay.
very, very great at past life regression. It's really, really fun. And it's really, really, just relax into it and it all just flows so beautifully.
It sure
And if you're
does.
looking to, I just want to hype up once Kathy D's taking appointments again, I would highly suggest getting some hypnotherapy from her. And I'm feeling like it's going to be a realignment soon where I might take a few sessions for clearing. But I realize I'm doing so much energy work when I do it. Like every time I do a group yoni steam, in the past, I start my own cycle. So I'm pushing energy. Like energy is flowing. And so these women are juicy, ripe, and ready to go. Book them. Hello. Okay. And I want to
Yes, we
point
are.
this out because Miss Mimi talks about something that I think is absolutely beautiful. And she says that she's feeling a lot of support, right? It does feel very supportive, the energy right now. We're all coming together and things are shifting out of the way. So, people you don't really need in your life, you can feel, don't tell everybody what it is you're doing because once you
Right.
find out, everything
Most
starts to
definitely.
shift, right? Because people in your life, they may say that they are feeling one way, but their actually intentions and energies are different. And I can even say that for myself. Like I want it to be this one way for a person, but they may not even want that for themselves, right? So that's not unconditional. So that happens, I step back or I say, you should probably keep that and marinate it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let the flavors seep in, okay? But also feel the support because the support is coming to you just as you need it.
Yes.
Just as you need
Yes.
it. And
Beautiful.
so trust it, trust it. Anyway, thank you, thank
All right, then go on as you were talking, April. Get us on out of here.
you. Stay blessed, stay golden, and remember you were made for this golden life.
All right, and Kathy D.
Make sure that you clean up around the virtual sandbox, that you empty all the sand out of your shoes and socks. Take home your own sand pail. Always learn to love yourself unconditionally. Wishing you the best life ever. See you real
All,
soon.
yeah, and as always, stay uplifted, stay motivated, stay ascending. Namaste and Namago. All right, till next time on the playground experience. See ya.